Okay, I'll call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Adoption of the agenda. There are 2 additions to the agenda. Number 15 will be a letter from AUMA. And number 16 will be from Alberta Municipal Affairs about the Minister of Municipal Affairs. Possible meeting with it. So we'll put those in as 15 and 16 and then move all the other numbers to correspond. So if somebody would like to make a motion to adopt the amended agenda.
We need a motion for unanimous consent
Oh,
first.
right, forgot about that one. Can I get a motion for unanimous consent to change the agenda? Councillor Schultz?
I'll make that motion.
Yep. All in favor? Carried. Okay, if somebody would like to make a motion to adopt the amended agenda. Councillor Cutler? All in favor? Carried. Minutes from the regular meeting, June 22nd. Any errors, omissions? If not, if somebody could move to adopt. Great.
Make a motion to adopt the minutes as presented from June 22nd.
Councillor Zimmer? All in favor? Carried. And now I need a motion to adjourn the regular meeting so we can go into a hearing. Councillor Schlossberger? All in favor? Carried. And I need a motion to open the hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the hearing.
Councillor Zimmer? All in favor? Carried. Okay, Marion.
Yes, so for the public hearing tonight, we're presenting bylaw 1690, which is an amendment to bylaw 1525, being a bylaw setting out the land uses for the town of Clarisholm. And the bylaw is proposed to amend the land use district map, and there is legal descriptions there, but basically it is the property that is to the east of the Cottonwood building. And there's a portion that is being rezoned from direct control to single detached residential R1, and then another portion from direct control to a roadway, which requires no zoning. And then direct control to multiple residential R4, and then another section from direct control and multiple residential R4 to public. We had no comments presented to be heard at the hearing and no request to be heard from the public.
And I guess we have no, we do have a galley. It's on Zoom, correct? Is there any?
Oh, there's not.
There's no one on Zoom. There was no request to be heard. Yeah. Yeah.
Any questions? Any? If not, if I could get a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make that motion to close the
Councillor
hearing.
Schultz, all in favor? Carried. And a motion to reconvene the regular council meeting. Councillor Carlson, all in favor? Carried. Okay, on to number 1. Bylaw 1690, land use bylaw amendment, second and third reading. Anybody like to make the second reading? Councillor Schlossberger? Question?
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to get bylaw number 1690, land use bylaw amendment, second reading.
All in favor? Carried. And who would like to do third reading?
I would, but I don't know if I'm dishonest. I'd like to give 1690 the third reading.
Yeah, it's
This is
1689.
1689 in my thing.
Oh, it is 1690.
I
Yep.
said 1690.
I know, but in the minutes it shows it as 1689.
Or
The agenda package.
In the backgrounder.
Oh. Yeah, I missed that.
Good catch, Councillor.
Well, I have it right in line.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so you're making a
The third for
third, okay.
bylaw 1690.
Question?
Moved by Counselor Zimmer to give bylaw number 1690, a land use bylaw amendment, third and final reading.
All in favor? Carried. Correspondence, the Honorable Casey Madhu, Minister of Municipal Affairs, Province of Alberta Economic Recovery Plan. Marion?
Yes, so we've talked about this in the past. The Municipal Affairs was looking for a list of shovel-ready projects. And this letter basically just states that the government has identified $500 million in funding that's to go to part of the economic recovery plan that will help fund those shovel-ready projects. Now, it also goes on to say that they will give us further details on how we can apply for that funding in the upcoming weeks, and that we should be preparing ourselves with some of those projects. So we'll wait to see what further announcements come, but once we see that information, we'll be getting the applications in, because I believe we sent a list of about 10 shovel-ready projects we had that could potentially be funded through this, so.
Nice.
Did we not get a couple of those approved?
Well, not for the shovel-ready, not under this program.
But we did for the other
but-
program.
Yeah, which is coming up later on the agenda.
Any questions? Take it for information. Number 3, the Honorable Tyler Shandro, Minister of Health, changes to the health services. Marion?
So this is in response to the letter that was sent regarding our physician recruitment and retention here in the community. Not the last letter, but a prior letter, and concerns that were expressed by council regarding the changes to the funding for, in particular, rural physicians. Probably the one thing I want to bring to your attention is that the government is establishing a physician compensation advisory committee, and they will have physician and public representation, and they'll be examining all aspects of that funding. So there wasn't much more there other than just to say that they've basically what they've said in the past about they've been working with AMA and want to come to some kind of a solution.
Okay, we'll take that for information. Number 4, the Honorable Rick MacGyver, Minister of Transportation, Alberta Municipal Water Wastewater Partnership. Marion?
Yes, so this was an announcement we received on June 29th. We've been approved for 2 projects under the Alberta Municipal Water Wastewater Partnership. One is the water treatment plant SCADA upgrades, and the grant pays 54.1% up to a maximum of $45,984. We did apply for this grant some time ago, and we actually completed the project in 2018, but we just had that outstanding in receivables because we moved forward with the project. But because this grant was in the queue, with the additional funding that the province has put forward in the Alberta Water Wastewater Program, they were able to approve it. The second program is the Lagoon Holding Cell Upgrade, and that's for a total of $541,000 in grant funding. The project is $1 million, and we will be addressing that later on the agenda.
Any questions? Number 5, correspondence, Honorable Parsak Panda, Minister of Infrastructure. I think I said that right.
Yep.
Alberta Infrastructure Act and 20-year strategic capital plan engagement opportunity. Marion?
So basically, that's exactly, they're just looking for feedback on the Alberta Infrastructure Act and the 20-year capital strategic plan. And they're leaving that survey open until August 10th of 2020. So if you're interested in participating in that, then you can go online. There's a link in the document that's in your agenda package.
Number 6, news release, leveling the playing field in local elections. This is just basically information. Marion, do you have anything you want to add to this?
Well, there's a number of changes that they're proposing in Bill 29 to the Local Authorities Election Act, which is the act that oversees municipal as well as school authority elections. So they're looking at looking at changes that would ensure that surpluses over $1,000, campaign surpluses, are donated to charity. Previously, that had to be held by the municipality or the school board in trust. Also allowing Albertans to support and donate to as many candidates as they choose, up to $5,000 per candidate. There used to be some limitations on that. Protecting the freedom of speech for third-party advertisers like unions and corporations by removing the definition of political advertising from the Act and creating more open debates on issues in the public and policies. Also allowing candidates to self-finance up to $10,000 for their campaign. That's higher than it used to be. And also increasing the limit that potential candidates can raise outside of the campaign period from $2,000 to $5,000 annually. So the Act has a little bit of a different campaign period. If you remember, we talked about changes early on in the year to the Local Authorities Election Act. Also, it's making it so that candidates do not have to file any disclosures before Election Day. So financial disclosures, but those must be filed after Election Day. So the other portion of that is anyone who spends more than $50,000 in their campaign will be required to have a chartered professional accountant to review their financial statements before they submit them to the municipality. If passed, this bill will take effect on September 1st.
Any questions? Comments? Number 7, news release, physician compensation, Minister Shandro. Marion?
So I just brought this to council's attention. On July 10th, there was a media release by Health Minister Tyler Shandro. And this is a bit of back and forth that's happening between the provincial government and AMA, or Alberta Medical Association, regarding medical funding for doctors. So I just wanted council to be aware of sort of what's happening in that public realm as this unfolds, because council has an interest in supporting our local physicians and our retention and recruitment.
This letter is quite offensive if you're a doctor. The way he puts, basically he says the doctors are just playing games with the economy, and that they have never put forward a plan. If you listen to the physicians, they put forward 3 different plans over the year. So it's very misleading, I think. It doesn't surprise me at all, the letters we've sent in support of our physicians. This goes right in the face of it. So I don't think there's much we can do about it, but stay the course. And we've sent that other letter just last week that we supported. Other than that, I don't think there's much more we can do. Any comments? Number 8, news release, improving access to emergency medical services. All right.
So again, this was a media release that I thought council would find interesting. They've updated the ambulance regulations, and that they say is to help improve efficiencies and access to emergency medical services for Alberta. A couple of changes. The first is that the regulation will provide for support or access to emergency medical services by allowing what they call stretcher vans and other vehicles to safely respond to non-urgent patient needs, which would keep ambulances available for critical situations. One of the items that came to mind for me was the work that the MD was doing previously on their medical first response units that they've purchased and have throughout the county in our fire departments. So that could potentially reinstate that conversation as to whether or not that's something that could be used here at the local level to help support our ambulance service here. And then the other was that they're also allowing to maximize the roles for nurse practitioners and paramedics, which allows the nurse practitioners to work as medical directors and provide real-time medical advice to paramedics during an emergency situation. So two kind of major changes there that may have an effect on us.
I wonder if we could not send a letter to these people about our transportation society, because they use ambulances quite often. Hospitalized patients who need meetings with specialists or MRIs or different medical treatments like that in the city really use ambulances for transportation. Our transportation society, as we pointed out, would be a much more viable, cost-saving, solution for them. Alternative, that's the word I'm looking for. I wonder if we could send a letter from the town addressing this. They may look at it because they are trying to streamline their ambulance services, and it would be a cost-saving measure for them. Do you feel that there would be any use in sending a letter like that?
Transportation Society would really appreciate it.
You think we'd fall on deaf ears, or you think it would get anywhere?
I don't think it would hurt.
It's only deaf ears if the letter's not sent, right?
That's right, that's the way I feel.
I'd be in favor of that.
Need a motion to direct or administration?
I'll make that motion.
Councilor
So who are we
Schultz?
sending the letter to?
It would be to the Minister of Health.
Information.
Yeah, when I read it, I thought
And Dover Health Services.
Transportation Society, I thought it utilized
The sitting ambulance.
Yeah.
Transportation Society.
Well, utilizing both the Transportation Society for non-emergent and making sure that we're using the MD vans for in-town transfers and so on and so forth.
Non-emergency
for,
transfer.
Yeah.
Emergency.
Makes perfect sense.
Well, it makes more sense than wheeling somebody into those vans and then waiting for an ambulance to come to transfer them into another vehicle to drive 14 blocks. It's
Regarding the possible.
less than common sense right now. Are the words that I should use, not the words that I want to explain it as.
Okay, question?
Moved by Councillor Schultz to send a letter to the Minister of Health and Alberta Health Services regarding the possible use of Claresholm and District Transportation Society vehicles for non-urgent patient needs.
CC Reed and
Yeah, could we,
We will.
We-
We usually CC
yeah.
him when we send anything to the province, we'll CC him.
yeah, I think that says about all we really need to say.
That's great, thank you.
All in favor? Carried. News release. AMA's paid advertising, Minister Shandro. Marion?
Once again, this is just a news release that was put out last week by the Minister of Health regarding the Alberta Medical Association's ads that he has had out and his comments regarding things that are happening in those negotiations. So again, just for council's information.
I would like to publicly say online here that this is exactly what he's talking about. He's being paid to advertise and send out to every council in Alberta. It's the same, what he's accusing them of, he's doing right here.
The need to stop polarizing things and find solutions.
Yep.
It would be lovely if he stepped in and helped with that.
Amazing how little that man is actually doing for this government. Okay, moving on. Number 10, correspondence. Alberta Chapter of Wildlife Society proposed Cabin Ridge Coal 2020 exploration drilling program and the Eland Coal Limited. And the 2020 to 2025 Isolation South Coal exploration program. I don't know if you guys have been following us on the news, but Councillor Kenny that said that coal is not dead in Alberta and would like to get the coal market and coal mining going again in Alberta. And these are two proposals and two inquiries that are going to test drilling in our foothills, up against the mountains directly west of us. So I thought it would be good to bring it to your attention and see what you had to say about it.
200 drill sites? Like, how big's the average site?
These are tests,
Test sites?
but where they're testing is they're testing for future strip mining. So the areas marked off with green, that'll be where, if they find the correct, they'll strip mine it, just like in Sparwood.
So you're looking at the west side of Forestry Trunk, basically between the Old Man and the Livingston, as an area of strip mining.
Not
All the
far.
way from Blairmore to the Kananaskis.
Yeah, all the way along.
Which leads you through all of your headwaters that flow into the Old Man Dam. I'm usually all for progression, but
Yeah.
I have lots of concerns about it as far as future effects.
Well, think about just your not environmental impact, which will be huge here, but think of your recreation where you go. Dutch Creek, the Old Man, Castle will be okay. But there's so many areas up there that will be no longer viable for recreation. Racehorse, the headwaters for the Old Man is right in the middle of it. Now, it's not really our place to worry about. It's far away from us, but it does affect us.
When it affects your watersheds,
Yeah.
it affects us.
It affects us indirectly, but it'll end up being directly.
From a social point of view, that is where my parents' families took their kids. I've taken my kids. I hope my kids have a chance to take their kids at one point in time. Yeah, it's disturbing to see that in line with the amount of development that's going to be required for rail lines up into that area if they do decide to develop it, roads, the cost of the infrastructure to develop that. I have a challenge with it, but
Environmentally, it'll devastate that area.
personally I'll be speaking on it as a citizen, so.
They're asking for a reply, the Wildlife Society, from us?
They're putting it up there as information. This has been sent to me by a couple of different citizens. One of them was Deb Losman's brother. sent me all this stuff. And I've had concerns from other people, just inquiries. I guess nothing we can do directly, but we can certainly, I think, send a letter to the ministers involved saying that we don't agree with it, if you guys don't agree with it. I know personally I do not agree with, they've already identified coal as one of the things that should be eliminated from our society. And here is a promotion by the government to explore and take away public lands for strip mining. Now, I don't know if you guys spend time in Elkford and Sparwood. Like I've been up and seen the mines. I mean, it takes mountains down.
I will say that being out there recently, some of the reclamations that they have worked on are decent.
Yeah.
The reclamation sites are 50-year sites to get anywhere back to normal to begin with, and it's not, it's not the pristine areas that you've seen. It's, yeah.
Well, it forever changes the landscape. Like,
Yeah.
if you go up there, the reclamation is very attractive, but it's no longer large foothills and into the mountains. It's, the hills are made of tailings. The waterways are all permanently changed.
Yeah. Your hills look like steps now, so.
So just if you're interested in taking a stand or not, I thought I'd throw it out there and see what you guys thought.
Or they could drill and come back with nothing.
But you can't stop it then. Once you get that much money spent, it's too far gone.
I'd like to see a letter of concern written to environment just as far as waterway protections. And you're looking at wildlife reserves, you're looking at trout populations. The amount of recreational dollars that turn and head up the 520 every weekend, headed over to the 22 and through our town. That area brings money into Claresholm and through Claresholm every weekend.
Every weekend.
And more from an economic benefit to Claresholm, I think it's the natural setting's worthwhile. And greedily, I love seeing that area stay how it is. And also knowing that you can go hiking back there and you can pick up surface coal. The product is there.
Yeah, probably is there. That's without a doubt. But you know, the big thing right now, like the big push, the grizzly bears are supposed to be endangered. Black bears are on the decline. Habitat for moose, elk, deer, all on the decline. Then you're gonna take out all of the Bow Crow forestry.
Yeah.
Is basically what they're gonna do.
And that's your north-south foothills migration corridor as well, so.
Yeah. So if
I'd
we're
never claim
interested-
myself to be a environmental activist, but this one
This one's over the edge.
seems unrealistic at best.
Is that a motion that you'd like to,
I would like to make that motion.
okay? You got it rolled up already, do you? Question?
Moved by Councillor Carlson to write a letter to the Alberta Energy Regulator and the Minister of Environment stating that the town of Claresholm's position is that the promotion of exploration of coal in Alberta is not conducive to the protection of our environment and that these actions are harmful to the environment, our waterways, and our wildlife.
Well thought out. Whoa. All in favor? Carried.
I'm glad I wrote it that way.
All Number 11, correspondence, Alberta Municipal Affairs, Municipal Accountability Program Review. Marion?
Yes, so I sent the final report into the Minister of Municipal Affairs on our map review, and they have accepted that as completed to the satisfaction of the minister.
Okay, take that for information.
Thank you, administration.
Number 12, correspondence, Royal Canadian Legion, Alberta Northwest Territory Command, Commemorative History Book. This comes up every year. It's an ad in their history book.
I remember we did it last year.
Any comments?
It's worth a carry forward.
Okay, so that's a motion
Yep.
by Councillor Carlson.
Yes, sir.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Carlson to support the Military Service Recognition Book produced by the Royal Canadian Legion Campaign Office in the amount of $442.86 plus GST for 2021.
All in favor? Carried. Number 13, correspondent Barry Morishita, President of AUMA. Registration open for summer of 2020 Municipal Caucus.
Yes, so the Municipal Leaders Caucus this year, they are actually holding some in-person meetings. The closest one to us is August 19th in Nanton. It's a one-day program that runs from 10 till 3. With the current situation, they are only allowing a municipality to send one representative to those in person, but the August 11th session will be streamed online through Zoom that we can watch or participate in, I guess. So if there's anyone who can attend on August 19th, we should get them registered.
On the 11th, oh, in 19th, on the 19th.
I'll go. Much as I disagree with AUMA, I still think we should be very involved with them. So if you could register me,
Need a motion to do that.
Yeah, need a motion.
Yeah.
Any direction comes by motion.
Councillor Moore.
Make the motion.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Moore for Mayor McPherson to attend the Summer 2020 Municipal Leaders Caucus put on by AUMA in Nanton on August 19th, 2020.
All in favor? Carried. Number 14, correspondence. Tanya Thorne, Director of Town South, AUMA. The update, July 2020. We'll just take this for information. Marion, do you have anything you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out one thing in this, and we talked about this earlier with the changes to the Local Authority Elections Act, but there's 3 things here she's highlighted that AUMA is advocating for in that bill. One is that they're proposing that there be lower individual contribution limits. They're proposing $2,000 to $2,500 instead of the proposed $5,000, and that's their reason for that would be to keep a more level playing field, because not a lot of people would have $5,000 to be able to invest in a local campaign. Then they also wanted stronger limitations on third-party contributions, as we talked about earlier, with that extra money that can be put towards that. And then they also wanted to enforce the importance of allowing municipalities to retain the authority to pass bylaws to mandate interim campaign contribution disclosures prior to election day. So I just kind of wanted to highlight that for council's attention.
Any other comments? We'll take it for information and move on. Number 15, another letter from AUMA President Barry Morishito. Marion?
Yes, so this is, this was the addition to the agenda, and I'm sorry I didn't get this till the 17th late, so the agenda had already been done and out. The convention is going to be held virtually this year, and the opening keynote speaker is Peter Mansbridge, so I think that'll be really interesting to hear. They're also saying, though, that if the provincial restrictions are reduced a little bit, that they may actually allow one representative from a municipality, but they'll be touching base with us early in August for that. I guess the registration is now open, and so I thought that we should maybe talk about how we want to do that, if we want to get together to do the convention online. Do you want to do it individually? You know, it's always good information for council, I think. But part of that is also the camaraderie that comes from all of council being together at that convention. So I thought maybe we could maybe do something a little different here if we did it together and then, you know, had dinner together or something like that, right?
Yep.
We do have rooms booked that will get canceled because we always book those a year ahead, so we'll get those done, but.
Stay in Bloor.
Stay in the blue room.
Great, that would be a great idea. Or local. Yeah, I mean,
I could
that's
send
what
We
you-
don't have any scooters here though.
Paid scooters.
That would be a great thing to do as a team.
Yep,
Yeah, we should do it as a team, I agree.
yep.
Okay, we'll figure out a way that we can make that happen then, and we'll just get everybody registered if,
Yep.
okay?
Thank you.
It's September 24th and 25th, so please put that in your calendars.
It's our casino dates for this Sunday.
Okay, number 16,
Maybe that's what we'll have to do.
a letter from AUMA, Alberta Municipal Affairs. Marion?
So this is just a letter from the minister's office to see if we want a meeting with the minister during the AUMA convention. We need to respond before August 10th of 2020, but they want us to be sure to include 2 to 3 specific policy items that we would like to discuss, and not issues related to the pandemic or the economic recovery. I couldn't think of anything that, with municipal affairs in
Not with
particular,
municipal
that we
affairs,
would,
Maybe with Chandra, but that might get a little heated. Okay, we'll move on from that before I say something I shouldn't.
Wow.
17 correspondence, Claresholm Curling Club, municipal portion of the 2020 property taxes. It's pretty self-explanatory right there in front of you.
Same every year.
Same thing every year.
I'll make a
Councillor Cutler? Question?
Moved by Councillor Cutler to forgive the municipal portion of the 2020 property taxes of the Claresholm Curling Club in the amount of $1,028.48.
All in favor? Carried. Number 18, Claresholm Golf Club, the Bridges, municipal portion 2020 property taxes.
I can
Again, same as the other years.
make a
Councillor Moore?
motion, waive the taxes.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Moore to forgive the municipal portion of the 2020 property taxes of the Claresholm Golf Club in the amount of $2,901.14.
All in favor? Carried. Correspondence, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Claresholm Detachment Crime Gauge, January to June comparisons. Any questions on this? I'm sure Marion will be able to answer them.
Well, I have invited Greg as a delegation when we can have in-person delegations again,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so we'll take it for information at this time. Correspondence, Claresholm and District Family and Community Support Services Volunteer Appreciation Evening, September 10th, 2020. Marion?
Yes, so the volunteer appreciation event, we're planning for Amundsen Park with the restrictions being lifted to the 200. So they'd like to do dinner and entertainment and awards there on September 10th at 6 p.m. And they are asking that a member of council be there to present the Citizen of the Year awards. And they want RSVPs by August 21st. So if council can just let us know, we'll RSVP on your behalf. But will someone be there to present the award? Would you be able to be there, Mayor?
If I'm around, I will, but I haven't. September's kind of in flux right now.
Okay.
But I will say yes, but
That's
I'd
me.
like an alternative.
I won't be here.
I'm the deputy mayor for till September, so I'll do it if you can't.
Okay,
Yes.
we'll give you a decision closer to the due date, and it'll either be me or Gavin.
Okay.
If I'm around, I will do it for sure.
Okay. Anyone else that's planning to attend? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, correspondence, Carol Lyle, intersection at 4th Street and 49th Avenue West. Marion?
So we received this correspondence from Carol Lyle. She's concerned about the vision at the corner of 4th Street and 49th Avenue West. There's a lilac hedge along there, so I did have the staff do a little bit of background work on that for me. A number of years ago, it's been a few years ago, on that corner, we do have what's called the clear vision triangle within our land use bylaw. So within a certain measurement, there can't be any impediment for being able to see down the street. Jason did some work on that. The homeowners actually cut the lilac bushes back a ways and put a fence in that's below the 3 feet or at the 3 feet, which is allowed. So went and looked at it. Everything still complies with our clear vision triangle, which is,
It
you
just
know, what
feels
our
like
legislation is. But I think it's the angle of the street
Yeah.
that's the problem. It's not,
It's not square.
yeah, so I don't know if you want us to look at an alternative solution. Do we put a four-way stop in there? I don't know how heavily traveled it is, but that's one of the suggestions that this homeowner had.
That's what I take it home.
Would it help if the hedge was cut back a little further, do you think?
It's
It
more
totally is
the
because of the angle.
angle of the road,
It does
yeah.
feel like you're in the middle of the road before you turn. I don't think that a four-way stop, as a person who walks all the time and my daughter's on the bike, it's a bit
I really
unnerving.
don't want to see. But it did bring to light, I mean, because I wanted to be able to talk about this, so I did drive around town, and there's quite a few
Yeah.
Blind
tough
spots.
intersections where people have hedges in their front yard running right up to close to the street. And
4th Street, 43rd is looking west.
your hedge
Mine-
is,
I know better,
No.
yeah, your hedge would be considered the same thing for the triangle.
I
My
don't think
hedge is
it's,
way back.
I don't think
The
it's
stop
that
sign
bad.
there.
Yeah.
It's
See,
tall.
that's what,
It is
when
tall.
you're opening
But
it, it's,
I-
Yeah.
what,
What'd you say?
you open this door and there's gonna be other people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I guess the concern is that this particular intersection, the property does comply with the land use
Right.
bylaw. And they did do some work on it
Mhm.
previously. you know, so to ask them to cut it back further, I don't know if that solves the problem. I really do believe, and that's why we have the problem in numerous locations, is because everything isn't squared.
We're not squared.
We've got quite a few streets that come in on angles.
Yeah. Because that intersection's on a jaunt, now I know where it's at, 'cause it's the intersection that Mike and I take home every day. When you do make the stop, you do have to creep because of the angle you're on. Even if you were to cut the hedges, there are still people that park on that side of the street, so getting rid of the hedge, you're not really doing anything yet. I mean, you're doing something, but you're not doing anything anyway. You still have to creep out slowly to look because of the angle, but
They trimmed the hedge this week too.
I think as long as everything complies, you just have to, you're driving, you have to be safe.
You have to treat your stop sign as a.
Yeah, because oh, that'd really be well worded, put up the sign that creeps.
But, yeah, if it falls within the triangle and all the rules and stuff, I mean, there's not much more you can do other than you gotta progress safely into your intersections you leave.
So a letter from administration
Just saying it
explaining that we
complies.
have talked to that landowner, their hedges were cut back to comply, and a four-way stop is not justified. Because we have so many four-way stops now. Just,
I mean, I'm all for it if it needs it, I just think everything complies, and as long as you go safely, you're,
I've lived in that neighborhood for 12 years, never seen an accident at that intersection itself. You know, so it's not like it's an issue of severe, it's not an issue of severe accidents and incidences, so I don't think it renders a four-way stop right now.
well, then if somebody would like to make a motion to direct administration to make that letter, Councillor Cutler. And driving around town is lots of, it's amazing how many there are. Okay, great. Not quite yet.
Okay, so I have moved by Councillor Cutler to write a letter back to the homeowner stating that the hedges at this location have been previously cut back. The intersection complies with the town's land use bylaw, and that a four-way stop at that location is not desirable at this time.
Sound all right? All in
Yep.
favor? Carried. Request for decision, lagoon upgrades. Ryan?
All right, so a lagoon, the holding cell upgrade was identified as a project that needed to be completed during a 2016 study that we did of the lagoons. That was completed by MPE Engineering. That upgrade is currently in our 5-year plan, and it was intended to be completed in 2022. We did send that into the province as part of our list of shovel-ready projects. We did not do a formal application to the Alberta Water Wastewater Project, but as per the earlier letter, it is a project that complies with that grant funding, and we have been allocated $541,000 for that project. So with that, to take advantage of that grant now, we would like to proceed, and so it requires an out-of-budget expenditure. So the intent in 2022 was that we would have additional money in our reserve accounts because of the cost recovery that we're trying to do with our water wastewater rates. Because this is coming a little bit earlier, we don't have that much in reserves to be able to cover it. So we're suggesting that we use the $541,000 from the Alberta Water Wastewater Grant Program, that we use $287,923 from our Water and Sewer Capital Reserve Fund that was available at the end of 2019, and that we use $171,077 from the MSI grant funds. Now in 2020, we do have budgeted for a surplus that would be transferred to reserves for water wastewater. It's not really a surplus, it's an operating surplus that goes to our reserve account. If in fact we do have that money available to us, then we wouldn't need to use the MSI allocation. But we will have to determine that at year end with our year end financials. But we would require a motion from council to approve the project as an out of budget expenditure, and so that we can get that project out to tender and move forward with it as soon as possible. We're also suggesting that because MPE did the study, that we would just use them as the engineer on this project. So
sorry, just so I understand, this is essentially just happening 2 years sooner than we had thought that it was
Correct.
going to happen?
correct, and it's simply because we were given unexpected grant funding
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Councillor Schultz? Question?
Moved by Councillor Schultz to move the Lagoon Holding Cell Upgrade Project included in the 5-year capital plan to 2020 to utilize awarded Alberta Municipal Water and Wastewater Partnership grant funding and approve the out-of-budget expenditure as follows. $541,000 from the AEM-WWP grant funding, $287,923 from the Water and Sewer Capital Reserve Funds, $171,077 MSI grant funds, with the amount of MSI grant funds to be utilized to be reduced by the amount of the 2020 water and sewer utility operating surplus to a maximum amount of $171,077.
All in favor? Carried. 22, request for decision, FCM Asset Management Grant. Marion?
All right, so FCM has a grant that's a Municipal Asset Management Program grant, and it provides up to $50,000 per application, which is 80% of the funding. So a minimum project size, if you were to maximize the $50,000, is $62,500, with $12,500 coming from municipal funds. As you're aware, we are in the middle of doing our infrastructure master plan, and as part of the proposal and the contract with Associated Engineering for that master plan, they will be providing the grant preparation and assistance with the application on that for this program. So we've met with Associated a couple of times and started to kind of put the pieces together as to what that application might look like. The first critical step in asset management would be to develop policies and strategies, and as you recall, we did agree to enter into a cohort with Pincher Creek, and so that would allow us to do that portion of asset management. And so then in this grant application, we would be looking more at this procedural and the system-based process of asset management. It's not simply a financial tool, that's just one piece of it, but a lot of it has to do with training of staff and looking at our work order processes and our maintenance programs and all of those kind of things, and how we collect that data on an ongoing basis, so that as council makes decisions, you're making decisions on not only the worst case scenario in someone's mind from an asset failure, but what is the risk of that, and what is the service to the community if that asset were to fail. And so it helps you make better decisions as we move forward. So we are looking for tonight, we need two resolutions. First of all, for the $12,500 that we would need, in our budget this year for the infrastructure master plan, we had budgeted $130,000. We accepted the bid for $118,953, which leaves us approximately $11,000 that can go towards this asset management process. So that would just only allow us or require us to have $1,500 come out of our general operating reserve. The second motion that we would need would be to basically direct it, so we'd have the out-of-budget expenditure of the $1,500, but then also have, we have to have a resolution from council supporting the application to FCM for the grant.
Okay. Any questions? In the first motion, Councillor Schlossberger. Question?
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to approve the out-of-budget asset management Phase 2 project ensuring asset resilience in Claresholm in the amount of $62,500 with funding as follows: $50,000 from the FCM grant funding, $11,000 existing unutilized IMP budgeted funding, and $1,500 general operational reserve funding.
All in favor? Carried. And the second motion, Councillor Zimmer.
Make a motion to direct administration to apply for the grant.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to direct administration to apply for a grant opportunity from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Municipal Asset Management Program for ensuring asset resilience in Claresholm. Be it therefore resolved that the town of Claresholm commits to conducting the following activities in its proposed project submitted to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Municipal Asset Management Program to advance our asset management program. Understanding what functionality of an asset management software system or computerized maintenance management system, CMMS, is most important to the town and what implementation timelines and costs might look like. Purchase of field tablets / hardware to utilize ESRI collector and integrate / add data to our GIS database. Staff training on the use of field tablets and ESRI collector, including monitoring and assessing adoption. Map existing and future asset maintenance management business processes.
All in favor? Carried.
Who wrote that crap? Blair?
Request for decision, 2021 Southern Alberta Summer Games. Carried.
All right, so on the recommendation of the Claresholm Summer Games Committee, Council submitted an application to the Southern Alberta Recreation Association to host the 2020 Summer Games. The idea was that we would try to host those every 5 years, and 2015 was the last time we hosted them. At that time, Raymond was chosen as the site, and so our council agreed to host the 2021 games. As you can imagine, during this pandemic, Raymond has had to cancel the 2020 games, and so we did send a letter saying that if Raymond wanted to host 2021, we would be willing to move to 2022. Raymond is unable to host the 2021. They have other priorities that year, and so the questions coming back now from Sarah is the town of Claresholm still prepared to host the 2021 games. So Corrine works on that committee along with, I believe, Councillor Cutler, and
There's
Well,
several of us.
there's
like
no other
6 of us.
councillors.
No
all right,
other
just
councillors.
And so they talked a bit about, whether or not this was something they'd be able to manage, because as you can imagine, fundraising hasn't happened as was intended as well. So there's a casino upcoming in September that they've had contact with. They're still in the queue to be there in September, but if the table games aren't open yet, there's no money being made at the casinos. It just kind of backs everything up, right? And that's where the money comes from. It doesn't come from the VLTs or the machines. So, and then there's a few other, I guess, you could see some of the comments in there about, what other fundraising opportunities might or might not be available. Concerns about maybe the readiness of facilities if we don't have the funding in time. There's some questions around maybe we could scale back the games a little bit and still host them if we didn't have to host all of the events. The other concern is, where will we be in 2021? We all hope we're gonna be back to a little bit of normalcy, but, you know, there's a lot of things to be considered there. So, I think at the end of the day, basically, the feeling from the Summer Games group was that perhaps we could still host it in 2021, correct me if I'm wrong. But it might look a little bit different than what it did in 2015 or it did in 2019. That, you know, there was talk about maybe sharing with other municipalities some of their facilities that might ease some of the burden on the town itself. Even though bringing the individuals into the community is a great thing, it's, you know, I think there's still some details that would need to be worked out. But I think from the Summer Games Committee's perspective that we could possibly do that. It just might not look exactly the same. So if council is prepared to continue, we would ask that we be given direction to send a letter that, yes, we are prepared to move forward, but we would want to have some latitude in our ability to determine which events would be hosted.
Any comments?
I'm glad that we didn't say no, can't do it. I'm glad that the feelings we can. I think it's great.
I guess it just depends on the, you know, there's still a lot of unknowns.
A lot of unknowns in that, but
I mean,
The committee.
I understand that you don't want to go not 2 years, but do I want to be on the,
So the discussion around the table with the committee has a motivation to continue with the games. There's just a lot of unknowns around finances. One of the key points that was brought up too is around volunteerism. You know, you need a lot of volunteers to run this, and there's a lot of people who are struggling to get volunteers and to do that. So all those things are contingent on, but the atmosphere is that we should be able to make something happen. What it looks like, we're not sure, but again, finances, if we don't have a casino, a lot of small businesses is what we support with our donations and stuff. It's gonna be a little bit different, but there is still the motivation to have something. We just don't know what it's gonna look like yet.
Awesome.
I think if we make a commitment to have it, and COVID gets worse.
Yep,
I mean, it's not gonna be on us.
Nope.
We will be able to say, sorry. it's
still
canceled.
following guidelines and doing what we can in
We
those
have to
types of
cancel
things
it.
and stuff, but I mean, to say no now and then not know what's going on, I mean, we've committed, we do have a good committee and a good group of people who are motivated to make it happen. Just a lot of the situations that are contingent on finances and time and volunteerism will be something that we'll have to look at as things loosen up or tighten up either way.
Oh, and some of the improvements that were supposed to be made to facilities won't happen.
Right,
So-
yep, yep.
so-
I mean, and through some of the conversations, there was events that didn't have any, so having that ability to scale it down to what we need to run a games is important too, so.
Yeah, it's almost like, it's a condition, if we're going to carry on, we gotta have the rate to scale down.
Right. And to maybe open up conversations within the other communities in the MD and
Yeah.
seeing what's available and stuff and.
have you guys had that?
No, we were still waiting, we just heard back from Sarah around the fact that Raymond didn't want, or
Oh.
had other obligations, so we were still waiting for them to come back with an answer whether they wanted us to do it or not. So, a lot of things to wait, but still a good
So,
thing.
do you need,
I think if they got the people that think it can be done, as long as we get the option to do, if it needs to be scaled back and do whatever, and if we got cooperation from, like some of the examples here from our neighbors, that they would allow
yeah, some of
events to
the
be on their
events.
things.
Yep.
And that,
If the motivation's there to give her,
well, and as all of southern Alberta, if they desire it, counties might have to implement a slightly increased entry fee in order to participate, just to let the participants have their full, if it costs everybody an extra $5.
Right. So I'd like to make a motion to push it forward still. to work with Sarah and post it, yeah.
Can we clarify in the motion that as long as Sarah is willing to negotiate?
Yeah.
And we'll have to follow whatever guidelines are available for us during that time, right?
Okay. Question?
Moved by Councillor Cutler to write a letter to the Southern Alberta Recreation Association stating that the town of Claresholm is willing to attempt to host the 2021 Southern Alberta Summer Games with their support, with the stipulation that there be some latitude in determining which events would possibly be hosted and that other avenues be explored for different ways of hosting the games, including having other surrounding communities involved.
Sounds good.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah, pretty close.
Thanks, Jane, for typing that up. I mean, for catching what I said.
All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, Claresholm Skate Park location. We all have the little map. Marion?
All right, at the January 27th council meeting, council did pass a motion to support locating the new skate park at the new multi-use community building where the town office will be housed. On July 7th, a few of us met with Jeff and Lisa Darch to discuss what the association's plans were and kind of get that moving forward a little bit. So the map in front of you, there's an area we've marked out on the southeast corner of the property that we thought would be the initial stage or initial phase of the skate park. It would allow us to put leave the fences in place to start with to the south and to the east, and put some off-street parking along the First Street West as well, so that that's a pretty narrow, it's not even really a street in our road plan, it's just kind of been made
It's
there.
there.
It's
It's
nicknamed
just
1A
there.
Street?
Yeah, it was nicknamed 1A Street, exactly. So also, we would be able to do some landscaping around that facility, just to be able to protect the residential area from some of the noise and things that might come from that. One of the concerns we have there is that it's a fairly low area and drainage could be an issue there. But we do need a location before we do any kind of geotechnical. Now, the Skate Park Association has enough funds to move forward with the initial design. One of the first steps they would do is the geotechnical. They're suggesting that perhaps they use the same company that we use to do the geotechnical for our building. They may be able to save some costs there. So we'll help them kind of work through those logistics. If council approves of this site, that's where we would do the initial testing. If it appears that that site isn't going to work, one of the other suggested sites would be to the west, more where the old school site was, so on that site there. Once that's done and determined, if council can give us those two options to look at, then they can start with the design. And from there, we'll start going to the public consultation. There was a couple of concerns, I think if you remember at the last open house we had, there was some residents in the area that were a little bit concerned about, what impact there would be and whether there would be trees removed or fences taken down or anything like that. So the public consultation obviously is very important, and Lisa and Jeff are both on side with that, and the Skate Park Association as well. So what we would be looking for tonight basically is just a motion to support the location as identified, and then administration will continue to work with them to get this project moving forward.
So with the building of the multi-use facility there, it wasn't in our plan to level that off and get that low grade out of there with the building? Because it's a wet spot, right? We know it's a wet spot, but it was never in the plan as part of that to level that. Oh, okay.
Not in a long range plan.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to do too,
What's-
because the streets.
See, and I don't know.
Can't build that up.
Right, okay. Okay.
It's almost acts like a natural catchment area right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there any way we should have thought to maybe use that and do a holding pond there, or some kind of landscaped
I don't think
pond?
we need a holding pond. We've talked about this before. I talked about it with the contractor there. And depending on how this study comes back, we can put permanent lift sumps in that area, so it's always draining onto the road, and create a proper drain to go down to the closest catch. But that's something that this study will bring
We'll
up.
try to figure it out, okay, okay. Yeah, it's a good
Well,
location.
it'll give us some ground conditions is what the geotechnical will do, is it'll give us ground conditions.
I've also been asked by a few community members if I've heard anything about where it was supposed to go, and I mentioned that they were thinking of putting it there. From the few people that I've talked to, they thought that was a great idea. There was nobody that said they think that's dumb or anything, or they're mad about it. They think that's great to be able to utilize this.
Yeah.
Well, it's a big area, as long as we put it so as the rest of the area can be utilized for something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if it does have to go on the old school site, I would keep it, well, there's a fence line there that shows towards the north end of the old school, keep it up in there. So it's that whole end of the property can still be utilized for something that'll come up in the future.
Like you're talking closer to the
Multi-use building.
multi-use parking lot there?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
And
I
that
agree with
way-
the north end of that one.
that way you're minimalizing the number of people impacted, only the ones across the street. If you put it down the other corner, you're impacting two directions.
Right.
yeah. Okay.
Do you need
Yeah, I
a,
think
so you
it's-
need a motion to, all right, would somebody like to make that motion? Councilor Schlossberger. Oh, here's the motion right here. Question?
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to authorize the Claresholm Skate Park Association to investigate the area south of the new multi-use building for a suitable site for the new skate park construction, following public consultation, and furthermore to work with administration to determine site suitability. First is option 1 on the east location, and then option 2 west location.
All in favor? Carried? Request for decision. The Claresholm Airport Lands Agreement. The MD has accepted our agreement and sent back a letter you've all got. Miriam?
Yes, so at the JEDI meetings, we've been talking a bit about the industrial airport and the land around there and what may or may not happen with that. Part of the discussion was around the use of the airport and the maintenance and repair of that. That was also brought forward to council, discussed in an in-camera session, but there was a public motion to be a letter sent to the MD with their options. The MD has accepted the proposal from the town, and basically what that means is that we would transfer the airport proper over to the MD for $1, and that would also include the Pilot's Lounge or whatever it's called. Building, the
Lounge.
terminal building. That's, I couldn't think of what it was, but it was something like that. And then also we would share in the cost of some minor repairs to the runway itself over a 2-year period, with half of it to be paid in 2020 and the other half to be paid in 2021. So as the mayor said, I received a letter from the MD of Willow Creek stating that they were in agreement with that, so I need a resolution of council to approve the airport lands agreement and with the MD of Willow Creek as presented with an effective date of August 1st, 2020. That should say the transfer, to approve the airport lands transfer agreement, sorry, not just airport lands agreement.
So they take over the terminal as well?
Yep,
Yeah.
becomes theirs.
They own that land, the building just sits on
Oh,
their
I was just
land.
wondering why that wasn't in red as well.
Yeah,
But they already.
it's already on their land.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Oh, one of the other things too is they're also willing, we have 2 minor leases out there. We have lease for people to hay, and so there's 2 leases there that they've agreed they would just take over for the remainder of the term of those leases as well.
Any other questions?
I'll make that motion.
A little anxious? Question?
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to approve the airport lands transfer agreement with the municipal district of Willow Creek as presented with an effective date of August 1st, 2020.
All in favor? Opposed? Oh. In between?
I'm just a little, I'm slow on the draw there.
Carried.
Sorry, didn't mean to scare you.
26, request for decision. Rocky Mountain Drift Club Fair Days demonstration. Marion?
All right, so Jason Toon would like to do the drift demonstration during Fair Days again this year. And with that, it would require the closure of a portion of, so the south end of 2nd Street East and 2A Street East, between 47th Avenue and the north axis of the UFA card lock. He's proposing to do that on August 9th from 8:30 till 10. That would be prior to the reverse parade, which normally he would do it prior to. He's done it for 3 years. Haven't had any complaints from the immediate property owners. He has in the past reached out to them so that they were aware and understood what's happening. We did have some concerns about crowd control and safety, and that has been discussed with him, and he's assured us that there will be additional volunteers on site this year, making sure that they're adhering to all of the Alberta Health requirements, orders, and ensure that people are in the appropriate location for safety reasons. So.
I've attended the last 2 years. It's well attended, but not to the point where it'd be scary for crowds.
Yeah.
You don't think so?
No.
Most people that
Just 'cause
was
it's
there
too early
was
morning.
probably 70
Yeah.
people.
I just worry that we cancel the parade and then let all these other activities happen around.
Well, the parade, I mean,
We just reversed it.
I'd like to see the parade happen also.
Me too.
But when you think about it, they're solid, in certain areas, they're 2 or 3 deep, and a solid line of block long. You go to the Drift Club demos, which I've done,
I didn't, so.
and there's no deep crowds like that. And it would be easy, there's a couple of collection points where they do get a little, it'd be easy to disperse them, because I mean, you got a whole block. To disperse them a little bit. As far as crowds, I don't see the same issue as the parade.
They might have to run a couple of ribbons and do
Yeah.
a staggered spacing, but
Yeah, I think the
Just
only
make
real,
them sit
like
like
where
you.
they close the road off, they tend to gather a bit there, so you just disperse them. If they're willing to disperse the one collection point, I think it would be all right.
yeah.
Any other comments?
No, I'm good with making the motion to let them proceed.
Okay, Councilor Carlson? Question?
Moved by Councillor Carlson to approve the closure of the south end of 2nd Street East and 2A Street East between 47th Avenue East and north access of the UFA card lock on 2nd Street East on Saturday, August 9th, 2020 from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the Rocky Mountain Drift Club demo.
All in favor? Carried. Now the next one, Fair Days events. This one is a little more complex. Marion, you want to?
Yes, so Lauren Billy is the event coordinator again this year for us, and she's asking for council to consider allowing the street festival to take place on the August 8th date. She'd like to close a portion of 49th Avenue and have the street festival within the confines of between First and, well, actually the alley and 2nd Street. She says she'll have volunteers available. She wants to only allow, she'd host the event from 1 till 6. She'd have a maximum of 50 people on the street at any one time, for only an hour at a time. So I haven't talked with her on the details of that, whether she would rotate the events so that people could come at a different time of day or whatever. She would have food trucks and some entertainment there as well, as per usual. Provide sanitizer, safe spots in the middle of the road to stand, just trying to adhere to any of the public health orders that might be in place. The second request she has is for council to consider allowing drive-in movie theater during fair days, and she's proposing a couple of locations that the town has access to. We don't have any large parcels other than a couple of places, so she suggested perhaps this vacant lot over here that normally would be the parade staging area or the community hall parking lot, which would be maybe a second option. I do know that there's been some investigation of that by the Art Society as well, and so that might be something that needs to be discussed along with that. So there's some concerns for sure, but I don't know how council feels about allowing this.
Well, with the drive-in, let's just address that first. That's a very complex issue. It's not as simple as just saying we're going to throw a drive-in together. The Art Society, Carmel Steele has been working on it, and it's quite complex. Finding the proper spot to put your screen up is their biggest single problem. I would suggest when it comes to the drive-in that we ask Lauren to contact Carmel and they come up with a plan between them. Because we got two parties heading off in the same direction, and perhaps with both of them together, they'd have enough volunteers and enough funds to do it. Because Carmel's looking at using the front facade of the community hall to support the screen. I had quite a talk with her about it, and I think if Lauren was to jump in and they worked something together, they might be able to pull it off there. But to do it independently, it's quite costly. It's not, I don't see it working. Plus, she doesn't have the license.
I want it at the community hall. I don't think it's appropriate.
Not appropriate there in private residence. But the other thing about a drive-in is you need to have the license to get the films. The Art Society has that license.
A license.
So without that license, you're not gonna get any film to put on a drive-in. And it's not as simple as just saying, well, I'm gonna go buy a film.
It's not cheap.
No. So, for that part, I would like to see council recommend that she gets together with the Art Society and talk to them about it. Now, going back to the closing 49th, what do you guys think?
Nope. Definitely no for me.
Anybody else?
I personally don't find it viable this year. Even trying to get vendors to service groups of 50 per hour. They're relying on all of those people to participate at their vendor during that hour to make it viable for them.
What do you do with the people that are waiting there to go and do something? Oh, we have 50 people here now, you have to wait.
That's how it is.
It's,
Oh.
yeah, there's, as much as you desire to try to make normal feel as normal as possible, I think this year is a year to step back off of it.
I would agree with that, but I didn't want to be alongside.
I can see that too. I was I talked to a couple of people that have vendors. Some guys made out like real good previous years. Some other vendors didn't. I don't know why. Maybe they just weren't as hospitable as the other ones, not too sure. But if they figured that it was tough to make with allowing everybody through.
Yeah.
If you're living in, like you say,
Yeah.
restricting the flow, would it be cost effective?
I don't think so.
I know on
It
an
might end up
average,
hurting your street festival in the long run. You try to get a hold of them next year if we can, they'll be like, well, no, I went. I lost a ton that year, I'm not coming again.
well, an average vendor with the explanation that's on this paper wouldn't even entertain coming because it's a loss to show.
So, feeling of the
I
council is no?
do like the idea, but I'm gonna have to go with a no on it for this year.
Hmm.
I'd love to take my kids to it as well, but I
Right.
don't see it as a responsible decision at this point.
Right.
And not just for, yeah, not just for the vendors, just the whole.
So get a motion to decline. Councilor Schlossberger?
But I am in favor of getting a hold of Carmel and doing
Well, I think that's a
the
smart
drive. I
drive.
think that's a good idea.
Get more people involved in it, you got a better chance of pulling it off.
Come back with an idea or something like that, for sure.
Well, volunteers is the big thing.
I'll help direct cars.
Hmm?
I said I'll help direct cars.
So sorry, just so I have this clear, so our Fair Days events are going to include a parking lot parade,
Reverse parade.
and that's it?
By the drift club.
And demo for the drifters.
And maybe a drive-in movie.
And then there's some virtual stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to my understanding. there's a
Yeah.
bunch of virtual
Selfie
stuff as
spots
well.
and.
How you doing with that?
I'm just trying to, so I have two different motions, one for the drive-in
Right.
movie and one for the street festival. Okay, so the first one I have moved by Councilor Schlossberger to refrain from hosting a Fair Days Street Festival on August 8th, 2020 in light of the current global situation and the inability to maintain physical distancing.
That works.
Okay.
Everybody okay with that wording?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And then I have the one for the drive-in, whoever wants to.
The drive-in, can we not just leave it and let
I
her?
think, well, she's requested a decision,
Okay.
so I think,
Somebody's gonna need to make a motion.
I'll make a motion
Have
that
her
they
go talk to
collaborate.
the Art Society.
So I have moved by Councillor Carlson to direct the event coordinator to collaborate with the Claresholm Art Society on hosting a drive-in style movie on August 8th, 2020 as part of the Claresholm Fair Days activities with strict adherence to public health guidelines.
Okay? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, commemorative tree request. Marion?
so we have a request from the grade 12 class, 50th anniversary this year, to be able to plant a tree, a commemorative tree, and put a plaque or something with it on the site of our new multi-use building. They are the first graduating class from WCCHS, and they went to school in that elementary school, and they would really like something on that site, which they think would be appropriate. So, you know,
Great idea.
we haven't done anything as far as landscaping or whatever, but I think it's a really great way to recognize the past and the present,
I think that'd be a great idea.
personally.
Did we save,
Huh.
did we save the old plaque off the school?
The plaque, I don't know for sure if the plaque got
I hope
saved.
we did. But
We
there was
saved
a-
bricks,
We saved bricks.
so I think we can do something
But there
with
was
the,
also a brass
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that got saved, but
1955.
I thought, we could do something with the bricks we saved too around this, like, I don't know, I'm not creative, but.
And they wanted it at the new town, or the new multi-use building,
Mhm.
because they went to school, the elementary school that was there.
On that site.
But they were the first graduating class in.
WCC,
high school.
From the high school.
So why isn't the tree going at the high school?
Right.
No,
It's
they
just-
started there in that school and were the first,
And they think it'll be an improvement to that location, right?
they started in
Offer
a
some
little
service.
school and finished in the.
They just want to commemorate the old school that where they started school.
Yeah. There's,
At that site.
and there's a lot of them still live here.
I get what you're saying, because they said they're the first grads of WCCHS.
And they want to celebrate that as being the first grad at WCCHS, so why would they put it in the town?
Because they
I see
started
what
there.
you're saying.
There was something within that letter that stated that it was not an option for WCCHS, if I remember right.
That's okay, I was just wondering, just said
Yeah.
they were the first graduating class with WCCHS, I was just
Right.
wondering why they wanted it by the multi-use building instead of by the WCCHS.
Just because of the elementary, they went to that school.
They all went to that
They went to
school.
that elementary school.
My wife, well, she's passed now, but my wife was one of those people that, she was the first graduating class out of the high school, but she started in that little school.
I understand that, I just was more understanding why. It's understandable, we all went to that school at one point in time. I
But it's just a
know
way
that.
of commemorating
Yeah,
that.
sure,
school.
that's their plan, that's
It says here, elementary school in 58, note the WCCHS grounds are not possible. So they must have actually
when you approach that.
When,
approached that, so.
And that's a big thing, like this request is a bigger thing than you think.
No.
I asked, when the school was first coming down, if Mike would set aside some bricks for people that were requesting them. So Marion arranged for a pile of bricks to be left there that were taken off the old school. It was unbelievable how many people on Facebook who did little things in their own yards with those bricks because they went to the school.
It's true. I saw some out of the cemetery, somebody placed them as a, yeah, it's cool.
So I think this
Yeah,
is pretty
it's
cool.
Yeah.
Plus, it'll be, if we do it correctly, it can be a focal point for the front yard. And it's community involvement.
Indeed.
I think that's a big key right there. So do we need a motion for,
Yep.
where is it here? Yep, there it is. Somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Counselor Schultz? Question?
So the only question I have for you prior to the motion is, do you want to designate what type of tree?
Oh, yeah, they were asking about what tree.
Or do you want to just leave it up to the class?
I think leave it up to Mike and the class.
Yeah, I think so too.
Their preference was I believe, green ash,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is,
Yeah.
we have no
Green
problem with
ash
that.
is- As long as it's not popular.
What's wrong with poplars?
Or crab apple.
Carolina bush there.
Okay, can't be that
It's
easy.
ornamental.
Carolina bush with some pretty
Okay.
burdocks on the side.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Schultz to approve the request for a tree to be chosen by the group with assistance from the Director of Infrastructure to be planted at 111 55th Avenue West on behalf of the 1970 graduating class of WCCHS, with the final location to be determined upon landscaping. Additionally, all costs associated with the tree planting and any plaques to be borne by the reunion class.
All in favor? Carried. 29, request for decision, memorial benches, Frog Creek wetlands. I guess this is mine, actually. I had quite a few people, I walk out there, the wife and me walk out there quite a bit. And I've had quite a few people just stop and comment on how beautiful it is up there and how nice it is to have an area like that to walk in. Biggest complaint, there's nowhere to sit. They'd like to sit and absorb it. There are some rocks there, but nobody wants to sit on rocks. So, and I know at the time, we couldn't, those aren't walking paths, they're maintenance paths at the time. But things have changed, I mean, it's utilized now, they're out there walking around. So, I'd like to see some benches. in our budgets put out there. But then, I've also had people approaching me about memorials. Where can I put a bench with Joe Blow's name on it? I actually had a request today that I forwarded to Marion about somebody wanting to do something, rename a street or something for a recently passed resident. I know we have a policy where we can do memorials. I would like to see that advertised and expanded to include the Frog Creek wetlands and give these people, well, both sets of people an advantage here. The people that want benches out there and the people that are looking for some way to memorialize their family member that has passed.
Yes, so this,
So I think it's a double win.
the wetlands out there, isn't the end goal for it to be that, a wetland zone, not a place for people?
But the walkways, if you put them on the walkways, I mean, you're not gonna go walking through the
maintenance roads?
ponds. The maintenance roads. If you put them on the maintenance roads, so people can sit out there and enjoy those wetlands.
I thought wetlands are, okay.
We have promoted using them. We got signage up for using
Yeah.
it.
It's beautiful, and it's great to walk.
It's great walking.
But I think that its intent was to be that of a wetland and to be utilized as a walk-through, not a
A viewing area. But anywhere you go out and watch wildlife, I mean, there's deer out there, there's birds,
Yeah.
there's migration birds. Anytime you wanna go sit, and that's what people like to do, sit, contemplate. All right.
Just to answer Councillor Schultz's question is, the wetlands are intended to remain as wetlands, so we don't want to have human activity within the wetlands. But because we have those maintenance roads for the ponds, if we can keep people on, if they're walking or sitting on those maintenance roads,
So it's accessible as long as they stand.
it's not an issue, yeah, but we don't want them down into the wetlands. Like if you remember, we had a question about a request for somebody to put a skating pond on one of the
Right.
1 year, but that's not appropriate in the
Right.
wetlands, right?
So,
Because you're protecting the
endangered species,
environment.
yeah.
Protecting the environment.
Yeah.
Whereas
And the other
if-
thing is, it's about 3.5 kilometers or 3, it's
Yeah.
a ways if you walk them
It's a
all.
good
So, and to be able to rest once in a while for some people is good, right?
So even though I like the idea of benches out there, if for in the foreseeable future, if we have to do any maintenance or upgrades or something and we want funding, and now all of a sudden our maintenance paths, because the benches are considered walkways, without hinder us in
You
any
know,
further funds.
we can enlarge on that. The maintenance trails are there. We have the right to enlarge on our own projects within our own. We did not design them as walking paths.
No, I know, I just
But
don't want to have
but
it.
we have the right to allow people to walk on.
The benches would have to be placed so they didn't interfere with the maintenance. That would for sure be an issue. We don't want them to interfere with the maintenance or the wetlands. So there's kind of a fine line there for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't want them
No,
to have that backfire
No, I talked-
years down.
That's why we've been waiting to do this, because to wait till everything's finalized and appropriately, it is ours now, so we can do this. So it's costing the town nothing, but it's giving our residents some advantages.
Would the Kin Trail be another spot that could possibly have a
They
bench
have
or
benches
two?
already,
They already do.
and I use that quite a bit too, and there's people who sit on those benches. I've actually walked all the way out to the airport and back, and they're still sitting there just contemplating life, enjoying sitting out in the fresh air.
Well, I'll make this motion then if we want for memorial benches in the Frog wetlands.
We promote
Promote
memorial benches.
to allow it.
Just to
I don't know how you'd word that.
There is a wording
I
here.
guess earlier, I read it once, but how was it? For- for- Yeah. Okay, question?
Moved by Councillor Moore to allow memorial benches in accordance with policy number 5.6.24 to be placed within the Frog Creek wetlands with locations to be finalized in discussions with infrastructure services and administration to provide the least impact to roads and the wetlands area.
All in favor? Carried. And can we put something in the town news that you can put a memorial bench out there? Number 30, financial report, statement of operations. Any questions? Motion to accept the May 31st statement of operations.
I'll make that motion. to
Councilor
accept
Zimmer,
the income statements of May 31st as presented.
all in favor? Carried. Oh, sorry, opposed?
No, I was in
One
favor.
opposed?
I was in favor.
I missed you there.
I was reading.
June 30th, statement of operations. Any questions? Motion? Councilor Schlossberger? All in favor? Carried. 32, information brief. Frog Creek Wetlands Planning Update. Carried?
Just wanted to update council, so on June 26th, we did a condition assessment of the trees and the plantings out there. As part of the contract, Bossad and their subcontractor have basically a guarantee on the plants. And so there's been a number of plants and trees that were identified as either needing replaced or something done with them. So also, Bossad is mowing out there for the first 2 years, so this was the last year of their contract on that. And so they were out meeting with Associated Engineering and taking then an assessment of what those plantings, how they're producing. And we'll either get a credit or replacement plants or whatever, but just wanted you to be aware of that. We are aware that there are some that didn't survive, but we had, I don't know how many thousands of plants out there, like it was close to 100,000 plants and trees that were put out there, so not surprising that some of them didn't survive, right? So we'll just continue to work with the contractor and make sure that those get replaced.
Okay. Information brief, tax property public auction. Marion.
Okay, on June 22nd, council set the date and the reserve bid for the tax sale for this year for the one property. Happy to let you know that the requirement for payment was satisfied on June 30th by the property owner, and so there's no requirement for the tax sale. So they have up until the tax sale to make those payments, if you don't know. So we will be removing the tax notification from that property, and we won't have to hold the tax sale this year.
Perfect. Information brief, stockpile enforcement. Marion.
All right, so we were dealing earlier with the property that we did the rezoning on. So there was a stockpile of black dirt that was on that property that was being transferred into the town's name. The individual had a period of time to remove that as part of the agreement. So last week, late in the day or whatever, it got moved to an adjacent property. That property is zoned R1, and there cannot be a stockpile of materials unless it's attached to a development permit. And so once that complaint was received by a member of council, we looked into it, and we have written a warning letter to the individual. He has contacted me and will be appealing that warning letter, but he had until a certain date to have those materials removed, and if not, then we'll have to issue an order, but just wanted council to be up to date on that.
Thank you.
Information, CAO report. Any comments?
Right.
36, council resolution status, any? No?
Good.
37, adoption of information items, any questions in there?
I'll make a motion to accept the information items as presented.
All in favor? Carried. Motion to go in camera, please. Councillor Cutler, all in favor? Camera off, please. Okay, could I get a motion to come out of in camera, please?
I'll make the motion, we come out.
Councillor Moore, all in favor? Carried. We have a couple of motions to make. The one is the transfer agreement for the land we're building the new daycare on in Play School. Who would like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer agreement between the school division.
Councillor Zimmer, question?
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to approve the transfer agreement with Livingston Range School Division for the land and buildings located at Lot 2, Block 1, Plan 2010646 as presented.
All in favor? Carried. And then we need a motion to appoint a new member, Karen Arnold, to the, what was it?
Claresholm.
The Alberta Housing Authority.
Claresholm.
Claresholm
Claresholm
Council.
Housing Authority. Councillor Cutler. Question?
Moved by Councillor Cutler to appoint Karen Arnold to the Claresholm Housing Authority Board.
All in favor? Carried. And a motion to adjourn, Kate Carlson. We are adjourned. Camera off, please.
Who's